Hello viewers and welcome to another budget gaming build video. Now keep in mind this video is specifically for those living in Saudi Arabia, since prices and parts are not specifically the same as what's available in the USA. So shall we get started? We'll keep this nice and quick now. So let's see, I got a message from one of my viewers, MrTwitchEffect. Hey dude, I really like your budget gaming build videos. They were great, thumbs up. Live in Dammam, KSA. Can you please tell me some good dealers in Dammam where I can buy components at a reasonable price, like $500 budget build? Okay, so shall we get started? This is a $500 budget gaming build. Let's say it's roughly 2,000 riyals. Let's get started then. Now, previously when I built my own budget gaming build, there weren't any online e-stores that you could look at to get your budget build. You had to go to stores, find out what the best price was, and then make your choice from there. Now, however, things have changed and we finally have a good online e-tailer that we can rely on, and that is softland.com.sa. So shall we get started? They have a decent selection of parts, so look at all that. So let's get started then. Okay, now I'd like to start with the CPU. So here, looking at the CPU, for budget gaming builds we want an i3. So, alright, 3220. Things to note down here, just look at my notes. 3.1 GHz, high IPC, a fast dual core, and support for native 1600 MHz. Also keep in mind that this is a hyper-threaded dual core. What can you benefit from hyper-threading? Well, it takes care of background tasks and you can do some light video, and it helps you in some light video editing. So pretty decently priced. Let's add that to the cart. Alright. Moving on now, we want motherboards, things to keep in mind now. For a budget gaming build, we want to look at B75 motherboards. Now the rundown in B75 motherboards is native support for Ivy Bridge processors, native 1600 MHz support for the RAM, and PCI Express 3.0 at 16x, and one PCIe at 4x, which is not important since as a budget gamer, I doubt you'd be getting a multi-GPU setup. Also keep in mind, this is also, let's see, no RAID, no SSD caching, no overclocking for the CPU, doesn't matter, you're getting an i3, and not for multi-GPU setups, as I said. So basically, a B75, what sums up a B75 chipset for a gamer? Everything a budget gamer needs, and nothing that they don't. You don't really need RAID as a budget gamer. SSD caching, I doubt you'll be able to fit I doubt you'll be looking at an SSD as a budget gamer. Now, what to look at? Here's a good motherboard to look at. And this is the MSI B75A G43. Things to keep in mind with this motherboard, aside from the B75 features I mentioned. It's a nice full ATX board, beautifully crafted in my opinion. It's actually a dark brown PCB, but as you can look, it's deceivingly a black PCB, which is nice actually. Love the dark black and blue color combinations. Looks great. Beautifully crafted in my opinion. Great for the price, full ATX. Looking at the back here, you have four USB 2.0 ports, two USB 3.0 ports, HDMI out, gigabit Ethernet. If we can expand that, yeah, gigabit Ethernet, PS2 mouse and keyboard, VGA out, DVI out, and your audio panel controls here. So good for the price, 330 riyals. Add that to the cart. Excellent. Okay, moving on to RAM now. Budget gaming builds. Now I did say that B75 motherboards have support for 1600 MHz RAM when you have an Ivy Bridge CPU installed. So with that in mind, why not go for 1600 MHz of RAM, since RAM is so cheap these days, okay? Ideally, you'd want to go for an 8GB kit. 4GB is enough, but I myself run into limitations with 4GB of RAM. So preferably for you, I'd give you 8GB of RAM, okay? So preferably dual channel kit. What to look at here? This is the cheapest of the bunch for the dual channel, 1600 MHz, and what to keep in mind. 1.5 volts Generally, with RAM, lower the voltage, the better. And cache latency of 9, 9, 9, and 24. Very good. 8 GB. More than what you need, and decently priced. You do have Corsair Vengeance, and it basically the same as this G-Skill DDR3, but more expensive, about 30 reals. For the sake of price, we'll stick to this G-Skill. G-Skill Ares as well, yeah. Okay, very good. Moving on to hard drives. Well, for a budget gaming build, 500 GB is usually enough. 7200 RPM is the ideal speed you're looking for. 5400 RPM is quite slow for desktop speeds. Ideally, you'd want 7200 RPM, and I see it right here. Western Digital Caviar Blue. I actually have this myself. Pretty decent for the price, 250 reals, 500 GB, 7200 RPM, and SATA 3 as well. So you can connect that to the SATA 3 gigabit, SATA 3 6 gigabit per second on your B75 motherboard. Add that to the cart. Lovely. Moving on to the power supply. Now taking a look here, 450, 450, but they're not 80 plus certified. Ideally, you want an 80 plus certified power supply. You do not want to skip on the power supply because you don't want to fry all these nice parts that you're buying. Ideally, Corsair CX500, this seems to be the only option around here for budget gaming builders. Yes, it's a bit expensive, but you do get what you pay for. 500 watt power supply, 80 plus certified, 80 plus bronze as well, even better. From what I understand, 12 volts and single 12 volt railing with 34 amps. Well, that's at least what I have. I think this is a bit higher since it's an 80 plus bronze. This could easily be a 12 volt 38 amp, which is really more than enough, and it's great for a budget gaming builder. Add that to the cart. Alright, moving on to cases now. Yes, I know it says full tower cases, but Softland seems to have mixed up between full tower cases and mid tower cases from what I've seen. So, taking a look here. Thermaltake V3 Black Edition and a nice Corsair Carbide 300R. Corsair cases are good, but this one is especially overpriced, 385 versus 220. So for the sake of price, I actually have a Thermaltake V3 Black Edition case myself and I really like it. Looks great, performs well. No bad things to say about it. If we take a closer look, you can see a nice front end here with a Thermaltake sign. 2 vents up on the front, 2 vents up on the top. Alright, a nice small, yes it is a small side panel, but it is a side panel anyway. And a vent for your graphics card. Also to keep in mind that it does have footstools, or yeah, feet, you could say feet, which allows good ventilation to the power supply, and yes, you do want that. That's good for your power supply. Anything else to note around here? Yes, it's a bottom mount power supply, and there is a filter for your power supply to keep out dust. Sure, I've seen a few things here. Yeah. Next, yeah. As you can see here, plenty of space for a full ATX motherboard. Forget the power supply, I'm sure it's not included. It's just an illustration. Toolless mounting for your hard drives and your DVD combo drive. Not to mention as well, it does come with a nice LED illuminated fan. Doesn't push out much air, but it does help a little bit, and it gives a nice illumination to your case at night. I'd say that's about it. And yeah, add that to the cart. Now unfortunately, what is it? Yeah, Softland doesn't seem to supply any DVD combo drives, but you can get that from any store to install your Windows in it. Typically they are 65 reals. I'll just add that to the total price once we're done here. Moving on to graphics cards. Now I personally prefer ATI or AMD graphics cards. I've looked over at the Nvidia section and haven't found anything that's worth considering. All previous generation and overpriced. So stick with ATI. What to look at here, what to look at. So you have the Sapphire HD 7750 and the 7770. Very closely priced, and I'd say should probably spring for the 770 here. seeing as the price difference is what, only 70 rials for a modest boost in performance, almost as powerful as a 6850, which is here. So 550 rials, not bad for the price. Let's go for that. It's Sapphire. What more could you ask for? Yes, I know the illustration is wrong here, it's a 7750, but it's an illustration for a 7750, but in fact it is a 7770. So, can add that to the cart. What would I like to highlight about this? Just a good GPU. The main idea with these budget gaming builds is to go as cheap as possible on all the other components and put in the most amount of money to the graphics card. So this is a good graphics card for the price. Add it to the cart. There we go. So there you have it, i3, MSI, B75, all that adds up to 2,300 reals, which is, yes, it's a bit over budget, but you know, you get what you're paying for. You're getting very nice quality parts. Everything here is just, says quality all over it. i3 3220, B75, G-Skill Ares, 500GB, CX500, Thermaltake V3 Black Edition, and a Sapphire 7770. Great for the price. Yeah, all we have to do is add in the DVD combo drive. Add 65 reals to that. Take a look at the rundown here. So with keeping all these in mind, you can get a Lite On or a Sony for your combo drive. In total works out to 2,365 reals, which is around 630 reals. Yes, it's quite a good bit over budget, but pretty good for a budget gaming build. Keep in mind also that it is $630 because there are overpriced parts, such as the power supply. The Corsair CX500 is overpriced here, unfortunately. So are graphics cards, unfortunately for that. Case, Thermaltake V3 Black Edition is slightly overpriced. Hard drives, well, we are going through this recession stage with hard drives due to the flooding in Thailand and so on. They are slowly going down in price, but they are still overpriced. So $630. Do let me know if you can manage to go on with this build, or if it's too much, and I'll try and skimp on a few more parts to try and go down to a $500 budget. I can skimp on the CPU, for example, maybe a bit on the RAM. Maybe we might even have to sacrifice on the GPU or the case. I wouldn't really go lower than a Corsair CX500. But do let me know if you can afford $630 or if you cannot. So, thanks for watching this video. Do subscribe, like my videos, and thank you for watching. Bye now.